When I stepped inside the tribunal, my mother averted her gaze. My father folded his limbs and the magistrate.He halted. "Hold on," he stated, rapidly scanning the documents. "The allegations are aimed at you." He gazed at me like he'd spotted an apparition. And truthfully, I could not fault him. Since the lady standing before him wasn't the identical neglected child my mother and father had, deserted years earlier. They had no clue who I had turned into. I am Clara Dawson, 34 years of age. For the longest time, I was the unnoticed kid. My mother and father, Margaret and Henry, were the sort of individuals who adored achievement, but solely when it appeared impressive officially. My elder sibling, Nathan, was their prize son. Top marks, soccer team leader, prestigious university grant, everything. Myself, I was the reserved one who enjoyed drawing, studying and helping at the nearby creature rescue. They labelled me a squandering of promise. My mother often remarked, "You will never earn cash with a gentle spirit, Clara. You will go hungry before you. Prosper. So I departed home at 19. No university savings, no assistance, merely a travel sack, a drawing pad, and a spirit full of letdown. But here is the fact: occasionally being unnoticed shows you how to view the globe uniquely. I held temporary positions, serving, teaching, scrubbing workplaces while learning arts and graphics, remotely after dark. It was not luxurious, but it belonged to me, and whenever existence felt intolerable, the single individual who always appeared for me was Grandpa Arthur. He was my mother's dad, a silent man, unassuming, with grey hair and a spirit full of compassion. While my mother and father boasted about their latest luxury vehicle or holiday properties, Grandpa was the one who handed me $50 notes for art materials and inquired how my inner self was faring. He observed me truly, observed me when nobody else did. Then arrived the telephone call I will always remember. It was a frigid December daybreak when I received the update. Grandpa had died calmly in his rest. I collapsed. He was not simply my granddad. He was the sole relative who'd ever behaved towards me like I counted. A fortnight later, I received a note from his lawyer requesting me to the session of the testament. No, I nearly did not attend. My mother and father had stated plainly long before that I was not a member of the household any longer, but a feeling in my core informed me I required conclusion. When I entered that dark wood-lined office, my mother and father and brother were already positioned. My mother glanced at me with her typical scorn. "Oh, see who chose to appear," she stated. The impoverished creator. I did not answer. I simply settled quietly, chest thumping. The attorney, Mr. Preston, adjusted his voice and started reading. He commenced with minor gifts. A handful of non-profits, some vintage furnishings, household gems. Then his tone changed. "And regarding the balance of the assets, encompassing the household enterprise, real estate and monetary holdings, I bequeath them to my granddaughter Clara Dawson." The space became soundless. My mother gasped. My father's face became crimson. Nathan slammed his palm on the surface. "What on earth?" he yelled. This must be an error. But it was not. Grandpa had endorsed it entirely. Every record was flawless. I sat there dazed. I did not request this. I did not anticipate it, but for the initial instance in my existence I felt acknowledged. What occurred next was directly from a bad dream. My mother and father ceased acting to be polite. They named me unappreciative, cunning, a fortune. Hunter. They alleged me of swaying Grandpa while he was frail, despite he'd been mentally competent, verified by his physicians. Then came legal actions. They prosecuted me for excessive pressure, psychological coercion, and deceitful legacy. They desired it entirely. The residence, the firm, the cash, everything Grandpa had given to me. Initially I was frightened. I was not an attorney or a combatant. I was a creator who adored her granddad, but something inside me changed. Perhaps it was the years of being ignored. Perhaps it was Grandpa's phrases repeating in my thoughts. Do not allow anybody to establish your value, Clara. You were meant to rise high, so I employed the finest lawyer I could locate, a lady named Rachel. Cole. She was astute, serene, and exceptional. Allow them to undervalue you, she told me. That is our benefit. And she was correct. The day of the proceeding, I stepped inside that tribunal dressed in a plain dark outfit and Grandpa's antique carry clock in my grasp. My mother averted her gaze when she noticed me. My father sneered. Nathan murmured something that caused them all to chuckle. I inhaled deeply and murmured to myself, "You can manage this." The magistrate arrived, a senior man with gentle eyes and an authoritative aura. But when he noticed me, he halted. He looked at the documents, then at me, then back at the documents. "Hold on, the allegations are aimed at you," he stated, shocked. "Yes, Your Honour," I answered serenely. He blinked twice. "I recognise your granddad," he stated softly. "He was among the most esteemed men I ever encountered." The tribunal became quiet. My mother and father stirred uneasily. Then the interrogation started. Their attorney depicted me as a plotting granddaughter who had charmed her path into the testament. He named me idle, controlling, and mentally unsteady. Every expression hurt since it originated from the individuals who brought me up. But Rachel stood firm beside me, posing sharp, precise. Queries. "Mr. Dawson," she stated to my father, "is it not correct that you had not communicated with your father-in-law for over a decade?" He fidgeted. "We had disagreements, and during those 10 years, who looked after him when he became sick?" "Clara," he mumbled. Then she rotated towards my mother. "Mrs. Dawson, you allege Clara manipulated your dad. Were you aware she covered his healthcare costs from her own reserves when your spouse declined?" My mother's face became ashen. "I was unaware of that. Every reality emerged, one following another. Years of concealed compassion, quiet, sacrifices, and silent affection all uncovered under pledge." But the genuine surprise, that was still forthcoming. Since Grandpa had left one ultimate note secured in a different pouch to be unsealed, solely if as well was disputed. The magistrate cracked the seal and started reading aloud. His voice shook. "To those who doubted my choice, I constructed my existence from scratch. I have witnessed avarice ruin decent men and quiet, compassionate spirits. Clara supported me when all others vanished. She reminded me that affection is not quantified in currency, but in instances. If my household cannot perceive that, then this note will act as my ultimate desire. Allow her to possess everything, not since she requested it, but since she merited it with her spirit. And if she ever questions herself, inform her this: she is the heritage I am most proud of." The tribunal was silent. My mother appeared like she'd spotted an apparition. My father's eyes lowered to the ground. Even Nathan, the prized son, appeared humiliated. Droplets streamed down my face. For the initial instance, I did not weep from agony, but from tranquility. And that is how the initial proceeding concluded, with reality, not cash, on my side. But as I would shortly discover, this was not the conclusion, since my mother and father were not finished contesting. And what came next would reveal a mystery about Grandpa's history, one that would alter everything I believed I understood about my household and myself. After the proceeding, I believed the turmoil had ended. But I was mistaken. My mother and father had always valued more about perceptions than reality, and forfeiting Grandpa's legacy in front of a magistrate injured their ego more severely than losing the cash itself. Within a week, they submitted a challenge. They alleged fresh proof that Grandpa was not mentally competent when he endorsed the testament. It was a falsehood. But falsehoods, when clad in elegant expressions, can sound nearly credible. That is when I understood this was not regarding cash any longer. It was regarding retribution. The fresh bar proceeding was set 3 months later. By then the murmurs had commenced, journalists probing around, gossip sheets naming me the wealth, granddaughter.Individuals who never bothered before abruptly wished to reconnect. Even Nathan transmitted a lukewarm message. Perhaps we can resolve this confidentially. I did not answer. The day of the fresh case I stood outdoors the courthouse in the heavy rainfall. My image in the glass entrances appeared more aged, more defined, like I'd matured 10 years in 3 months. But this instance I was not stepping inside as a frightened lass. I was stepping inside as a lady who had finally discovered her value. Inside, my mother and father were already seated, murmuring to their attorney. My mother wore a gem necklace that previously belonged to Grandpa. I pondered if she even recognised the paradox. When the magistrate entered, I halted for an instant. It was not the identical man from the prior proceeding. This one was unfamiliar, mid-50s, collected, but with something recognisable about his eyes. He looked at me for an instant longer than needed. Then he looked at the dossier, his forehead creasing. Miss Dawson, he stated gently, "Can I see you and your representative in my office before we continue?" My chest jumped. Was I in difficulty? Inside his office, the magistrate shut the entrance and signalled for us to settle. I was not certain if I should utter anything he commenced, but your grandad. Arthur Dawson. He rescued my existence once. I blinked. What? He grinned slightly. 3 decades earlier, I was a legal pupil. My household was having difficulties. I could not manage tuition, and I was prepared to stop. Arthur discovered via a grant scheme he financed discreetly. He covered my complete tuition and never informed anybody. He simply told me, one day, assist somebody else without anticipating anything in exchange. My neck constricted. That sounded precisely like Grandpa. The magistrate looked down at his documents. When I noticed your name, I did not recognise you were that Dawson, but now I understand why he bequeathed everything to you. He adjusted his gown. Let us commence the proceeding. The process started peacefully until my mother and father's attorney introduced a fresh observer, a carer who alleged Grandpa was disoriented in his final days, but something about her felt incorrect. Her statement was mechanical, practised. Then Rachel, my attorney, bent near and whispered, "Observe this. She rose and stated, "Miss, can you verify this is your signature on the sworn statement?" "Yes," the carer stated assuredly. "And can you verify this salary slip is yours as well?" The carer scowled. Salary slip. Rachel lifted a paper. "Since according to this," she stated, "you are receiving payment from Mr. and Mrs. Dawson, the identical individuals prosecuting my client." Gasp filled the tribunal. The carer faltered. "I was simply instructed to deceive under pledge," Rachel retorted. "You are conscious that is lying under oath, correct?" The magistrate struck his gavel. Quiet in the tribunal. My mother's face became pale. My father murmured something to their attorney, but it was too delayed. The magistrate had observed sufficient. He looked at me. "Miss Dawson, you may settle." "I have heard all I require to hear." Then he rotated towards my mother and father. "You have not solely attempted to swindle your child, but you have tainted this tribunal with untrue testimony." His voice boomed. "Your dad would be humiliated." Moisture pooled in my eyes. For the initial instant, somebody uttered it aloud. But then the magistrate paused. He picked up a different folder and stated, "Before I issue the ultimate ruling, there is one additional issue. This was included in a private file from your granddad's attorney, directed to you, Miss Dawson. He handed me a secured pouch. My digits quivered as I unsealed it. Inside was a note and a solitary delivery record. The note read, "My beloved Clara, if you are reading this, it signifies you have endured the hardest of it. I must inform you something I never possessed, the bravery to utter face to face. You were not delivered a Dawson, you were taken in. Your mother, Margaret, was not capable of having kids when she was youthful. She and Henry took you in. But when Nathan was delivered later, their affection moved. I assured her I would never inform you. But when I observed how they behaved toward you, I could not remain silent in my core. You were my genuine granddaughter in every manner that counts. That is why I bequeathed you everything. Not due to lineage, but due to affection. Grandpa Arthur, my palms quivered, adopted. The tribunal hazed. My mother and father, faces lost colour. My mother's lips trembled, but no expressions emerged. All this while their chill, their remoteness, the manner they behaved towards me uniquely. It abruptly became logical. But here is the paradox. The man they named, not your genuine household, was the sole one who ever truly was. The magistrate spoke gently. Miss Dawson, I do not believe this alters anything regarding who you are. If anything, it clarifies why. Your granddad respected you so profoundly. He rotated towards my mother and father. Regarding you, the tribunal rejects your case with bias. Then his voice softened. Matter concluded. When it was over, I stepped out of that tribunal into the chilly sunlight, my spirit weightier and lighter simultaneously. My mother and father did not follow me. They did not apologize. They simply stood there, gazing, like they were ultimately understanding what they'd forfeited. Rachel embraced. You achieved it, she whispered. But I was not contemplating about succeeding. I was contemplating about Grandpa. His grin, his quiet fortitude, the manner he always had faith in me when nobody else did. I drove directly to his burial site. The turf was emerald and tender, the heavens cleansed in gold. I knelt beside the rock and positioned the carry clock. I understand now, I whispered. I finally comprehend what you implied, since it was never regarding the legacy. It was regarding inheriting his essence. You see, lineage does not create somebody household, affection does. Occasionally the individuals who possess your DNA can shatter your spirit, while the ones who possess your essence can reconstruct it bit by bit. Grandpa showed me that prosperity is not quantified in currency. It is quantified in self-respect. And genuine strength does not originate from retribution. It originates from serenity. When I departed that tribunal, I did not feel like the destitute lass who'd been overlooked all her existence. I felt like the lady he always trusted I'd turn into. If you like this tale, do not forget to appreciate, distribute, and follow for additional potent tales, since occasionally the most silent tones hold the strongest realities. And possibly, just possibly, the subsequent tale will remind you that being undervalued is the ultimate strength of all.